Hi everyone and welcome back. So we are going to build this simple demo application which is going to be using all these different stack. So all my incoming videos will be talking about all these things, all these tools and technologies which you can see on the screen. Next.js, Prisma, TypeScript, Tailwind icon is not there. And we are doing all these things inside a npm workspace and the monorepo tools, Postgres, React, Nextauth, TRPC and Tailwind. Okay, so we are creating just a combinations of these services. Like in this demo example which I'm going to build for simple authentication, we are using Prisma, Next.js, TypeScript, Tailwind and just simple Postgres, right? Because here we are not using Nextauth based authentication, we are not using TRPC, we are going to build the Next.js API routes. Okay, so this Next.js pages will talk, server-side pages will talk to the Next.js APIs and they will talk to Prisma for the database, and Prisma will talk to the Postgres for fetching and data and storing the data. So it's like we are building a simple authentication APIs. Okay, so this is a simple stack we are building. And then we will start adding in the next video. I will add a next auth, like simple authentication with the next auth, and then we will also build the APIs. Once you are authenticated, you should be able to submit like create a to-do app, create a post, blog post and all. For that we are going to use this next auth and the TRPC. So these two additions we will be doing in the coming videos. But for now, in this video, we are talking about these four things with the Tailwind. So let's see, this is the exciting videos which I'm covering. It's all about end-to-end simple projects with all these tools and technologies. So before starting, what do we need? We need Next.js 13.x. So the version we are using is 13.x here. Okay, and this Prisma for the migrations, we can use a SQLite because we are doing demos, right? So you can decide, okay, what do you want to use? So this can be talking to SQLite, Postgres, MongoDB or anything. What do we need for integrating the Prisma with all these things? We just need this instance running somewhere. I mean, SQLite I use for demos because you don't need a Docker container, Docker compose file, or create the container for the SQLite. It's a SQLite. This is like a file-based database, which will just create a file and this will store all your data inside that. It's a RDBMS, like SQL query-based database system. And if you want, you can just use the database provider as a Postgres in this Prisma schema file. Then it will be just talking to your Postgres database. So that depends. The implementation is still going to be the same. We are using SQL and the TypeScript always. Whenever we are writing the components, always we are just worried about using TypeScript everywhere. Either you write in Next.js, React.js or any applications, and everything is wrapped inside this monorepo tool. So we are already using monorepo extensively in all our projects. In my previous projects, all my demo applications and all, I'm using this NX monorepo tool, and then I'm just putting all these things together in the pieces, right? So all these things are combined in this monorepo tool. Then these two different technologies we are going to add in the coming videos and make our videos more learning and more exciting, because all these things you might already aware here and there. Okay, so let's get started. What we will do is we will first try to create the Next.js application, which includes the Tailwind support, TypeScript support and supporting 13.x. So we are not going to build those things from the scratch. We already have a 13.x setup with the Tailwind having a support for the TypeScript. Either you use a create next app that also gives you all these things. Like if I just go to Next.js 13 and if I try to create 13.4 is the latest version, but you can just use it to create the latest application with the, I mean, in the Next.js beta version, it is supporting this app directory, which you can use. So this all these dependencies you need to install, and then so what I will do is I will pick the simple Next.js 13 stable folder structure and we will build on top of that. So here we can use this npx create react app latest. Okay, and let's go to our code. So this is our monorepo code which we are using in all our videos. I will just open the integrated terminal for the app directory, and I will just to create next app latest. Okay, so I want to proceed with this. What is your project name? My project name is Next.js Prisma Auth. Okay, because here I'm not using Next Auth or TRPC. I'm going to use TypeScript, yes. ESLint, no. Tailwind CSS, yes. Would you like to use source directory with this project? Yes. App directory, yes. Would you like to customize the default import alias? Yes, because we can have an alias available, so that if you are using things inside a lib, you can just use @imports, import audios, yeah, with this @ and all these dependencies, tailwind CSS, post CSS, auto prefixer, the react dom is always needed, and types, node, next auth, sorry, react dom, all these dependencies are installed. So this is our simple setup. Tailwind config, simple tailwind config, ts config for the compiler. Package JSON has all these dependencies with us. Source directory with the default layout and default pages. We can run this application. Next config, and inside this you can see the app directory, right? So it is a 13.x supporting app directory. Inside app directory we can create all the layouts, so all the pages and all the APIs which we are going to build for our simple authentication layouts like login, register, and the profile page. Okay, so before moving forward, I will try to install all the other dependencies which I will need in this application. So I will just do inside, where are we, inside application, and I will move to inside this Prisma auth, and I can just use pnpm add all the dependencies. Like I'm going to use bcrypt because I'm going to write authentications, and bcrypt is I'm going to use to compare the password and generate the hash password. Okay, and then I'm going to use like, do we want to use store in our application? So that depends. Are we going to use any kind of a state management library? I'm going to use just so there are different solutions, like we can use redux and all. I just wanted to have a lightweight library to manage the state for my client side components, and jot for the data validations which I'm going to send to the APIs, and the react hook forms. React hook form, this is what I'm going to use to use, because we are going to build a login form and register form, so that this library can help us to build the forms and with all the validations. Okay, so these are pretty much all the libraries which we need. And Prisma client, how can we forget that? So Prisma client, because we are going to use Prisma, and we are going to initialize Prisma directory inside our project. So I will create a Prisma directory in the root of our folder Prisma, and then I will be creating Prisma config, schema.config. So here schema.config schema.prisma. I always make the mistake in the naming. Schema.prisma. Okay, and then inside a schema.prisma, it's all about like what is your provider, what is your models, all those things you are going to specify. So I'm going to specify generator client. Okay, generator client is the provider, is Prisma client JS. You will see most of these Prisma schema files are kind of similar. Data source DB, what is your provider here? So provider here, I'm just going to use SQLite, 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 and then the URL. Okay, what should be the URL that we are going to fetch from our env file, and its database URL. Either it is a Postgres or whatever, we are going to fetch this value from env. So it's a database URL. Am I doing any mistakes? SQLite env database URL. Why it's invalidating data source. Okay, DB cannot be defined because source with the name already exists. I'm not sure what is this error. Data source, nothing is defined like this. And then I will just define model. So I'm just defining user as a model. So how we define the models in the Prisma schema files, like okay, id is id, auto increment id is unique, default is uuid. Okay, I'm going to use uuid instead of auto incremented key, and at the rate id its default is uuid, and it should be unique. I think unique is always, because we are using uuid, so you don't need to worry about uniqueness. Name is of type string, so you can add all the properties which you want to have in the schema file. Email, password, that is also of type string, and all the other attributes. Role is also of type string, and here we can use this default. Default means the role is default user. Okay, and then there is a, let's say, verified. Verified is of type boolean. So how we specify it? Boolean like this, and the default is, are you verified? Unless you don't verify, you will be false. Then we can say created at, I will just quickly finish it, created at, that is of type date time. So these are the different type which Prisma schema use, and this is the default. Default is now, it's a function. Here are we adding, this is to default value is this. Okay, so then there is a updated at, that is also of same time, date time. There is also something like updated at. Okay, so default is now. So this is like a simple model we have created. Parsing the default uuid. What is the problem with this? Default uuid. Okay, let's put the at the rate id. Sometimes, okay, it's fixed. We don't need to use a unique for this uuid. Okay, so this is pretty much our Prisma schema file right now. What is the next thing? We can just try to use this Prisma migrate generate command to generate the client. Okay, so let's do that. So here we need to have a .env file at the root, and then where we will specify our database URL. Okay, and then I can just use npx Prisma generate. That should be in the root of the file. Okay, there is no command like this. This is npx. So I mean, client is already generated. Okay, yes, it is just installing this package, and then schema.prisma default the attribute is uuid, so this should be string. Okay, we got one error, and what is that? Because this is uuid, so in that case we can have this as a string. Okay, I will do this again. Generate command. It is loading the variables from the .env, and then it should be able to run. I mean, it will generate the client, and we can also do the migrate in the same way. So it has generated the client, and it has also populated these model inside node modules. And then here I can say migrate. It should ask me, okay, migrate, Prisma migrate status. Always this is migrate dev. Okay, my file name is user, that is my schema file, and here I did the Prisma migrate. So what I got the migration file that contains the SQL, right? This is the not null primary key, name, basic attributes, right? So this is my migration. So that means in the SQLite I already have a user table created. Okay, this is user DB, this is the file based database, right? And this is my schema file. So now I can go and try to start accessing the Prisma client to access this user model, user.find, update, delete, and all these different operations. So what we can do, we can start writing our components, layouts, pages, and the APIs in the Next.js. Now let's work on our folder structure. We already have a Prisma schema file. In the source we have app directory. So what is going to be there inside app directory? So inside source we can have components, so app components, and we can also have the lib folder, and we can use alias to import these things, import things from a lib and component. And we also wanted to just do some play around with this small tiny state management library just end. So this is a store lib component, and inside source we are also going to have a middleware that I will talk about what is the use of this. So here all the authentications and state management is being managed by us. We are writing our custom code of auth APIs. Inside app there is a API folder that is going to manage all these things. So inside app we are going to put, okay, here already we have a global layout and the global page, I mean on the forward slash. So we are going to create API, and inside API we can create all the different APIs, like auth API I want to create. So API auth, inside API the route will be API auth, and then inside this I'm going to have a login, logout, and the register. Login, there will be a logout, and next is register. Okay, simple. These are the simple Next.js APIs, because Next.js is server side and it runs on the server, so we can also build a server side APIs here, all these APIs. And inside this we can also build the pages. So inside app, because this is app directory, we can create a login, all the login pages will go here. RC app pages, so here we have a login, register, and the profile. I hope you already aware about this. This is how we are going to create pages, and each and every page will have these components like page.tsx. I will just create a skeleton for now, page.tsx. Same for the profile, same for the register, and each and every will also have this loading.tsx. You can also create loading.tsx. Same you can copy to the profile and for register. And then you can also create error.tsx that you can copy to profile, because Next.js does these error handlings, and you can have a loading state. There is a separate component you can create for each and every route. Okay, and at the root layout you have a layout.tsx. Okay, let's collapse all of these: API, login, profile, register, and then we have a layout, root layout you can say, and the page.tsx, this is the root page component. Okay, we don't have much here, so I will just try to get rid of all those things inside. So inside main we can just define, okay, what we wanted to display on the home screen. Okay, and then if there are some components, because we will also build some components like header, footer, all those components we can create inside this. Let's say we are going to have a simple header component, header.tsx, and I'm going to have a custom loading component, loading button component, and all the other components which you see you wanted to use, like let's say spinner. Whenever you click on some buttons, I wanted to add a spinner there. And then form input component. So these are all our reusable components I'm creating. Form input.tsx. Okay, these 4 components. Inside lib, do we need anything? Because we need to initialize Prisma and all those things. So we need lots of helper methods inside this. So one I remember is we need to have a Prisma, because we need a Prisma connection. We need access to the Prisma client, right? So you can just use the same syntax which we are using from everywhere, like I wrote this earlier also, from @ Prisma client, and we are getting Prisma client through this, and objective of this to export the Prisma client. So this is like a global for Prisma object. So it will be available in the global object, global as unknown as Prisma, and type is Prisma client. Okay, so here we can just do export const Prisma, which is global for Prisma dot Prisma, right? Either you already have the Prisma client, otherwise you can just create new Prisma client and you can pass any custom options you wanted to have, like I wanted to log all the queries. This should be a way of doing it. Prisma client, inside this you can just pass log and you can specify, okay, I wanted to log all the queries which are being executed through the Prisma. And here you can just return if process.env.node env is not equal to production. And what you can do, if it is not production, then you can assign global prisma.prisma equal to Prisma. Right, it is all about the enabling the caching for the development mode. If it is not there, not production, then you can have this global Prisma object and you can just use it. Okay, similarly all the other things like managing the sessions, all these things will go inside a lib. Now let's get started with building the APIs. So in API we have auth login, logout and register. So what all these things will do, we will just create a route inside all these files, route.ts, logout route.ts file, register also will have a route.ts. okay, and then these are all the route handlers which is going to use this bcrypt library Prisma client to access the table and do the insert, update, delete, all these different operations. Okay, and here we are going to write all the login and the register mechanism. Okay, so we are going to write a login, but before that I wanted to talk about these two libraries, Jord and Justin is we are using for state management. It's a very tiny library, and that's what I like, because I don't want a big library for this. I need something tiny which can just manage my state. So this is like initial state, and these are the getter setters methods you can define. So this is like here increase population will increase the bear population by 1, remove bears will set the bear with 0. So it's like this is how you can create the store, like use bear store, and then this you can use this in your component, use bear store, right? It's like a simple tiny library. So we will see how we use it. And Jord is used for the schema validations. I will try to pick some example if I can get. Okay, gold, silver ecosystem, basic uses. Yeah, this is the basic uses. So here, let's say I created this my schema is only talking about, okay, I need some string, and then you can just do the dot parse. That will give you the payload. If you're not passing a string, my schema dot parse, and you are passing the number, obviously it's not a string, so it will throw a Jord error. And that gives us a validation, okay, the type which is specified, this can be object, this can be array of object, this can be anything. This is a schema, and for schema, for inside a schema, for each and every property you will specify the type jet.string, jet.integer, jet.number, jet.object. It can be a complex one like this, user, which contains a username and maybe a password, name and all. Here I'm just specifying jet.string. So either you can mark them as optional, otherwise you have to pass it. So here I'm passing it, and it will just validate and it will allow me to do. So all these are the primitive values: string, number, big int, boolean, date, and then you can also make them required or optional. Okay, so let's use this. So why we need this? We are writing a login route. Okay, so in the login route, what we are expecting, we will be getting the post request. So how we create a simple route: export const function post. I talked about all those things in the Next.js tutorials, like how to create a simple routes, export. Okay, it's a function we want is async function post, and it will be give us request. So it's a next request, and here we can wrap everything inside a try catch. We are going to do lots of things inside this. Okay, inside try catch, what we need is we need to access first body. Okay, and how we can get the body in the Next.js API handler. So we can do request dot JSON. So we need to create some type also for this, like what will be the type we are getting, like login, user input and all. So for that we can just create a login user input. So this is the type we are going to create, and then what we will do is we will just parse it to get the data back. So login user schema, let's do the validation first. So in validations, what we are going to do, we are going to define the types. So inside lib I will create a validation. So the same strategy you can follow to validate the data. Okay, so here inside validation I will create a index user schema.ts, and here I can just do import z, I think it would be a small z from that is yod. Okay, and then this is small z, and here I can do the validations. So here I can just create export const. First we need to have a login schema, login user schema, and here I'm going to use this jet.object, and I'm going to define okay what how it looks like, and then I can infer the type also. I can export the type also from this. Export type login user input equal to jet.infer, and because this type we are getting from so type of login user schema. So we are going to get the type from that. The type is nothing but okay what you are passing inside this payload. So here let's say email, and how we define the validation for this, jet.string. okay, I think it should be jet.string first of all, and inside string we can just say required error if you are not specifying this, email required. I hope you have already used these libraries, like joy can also be used with this, and here you can say dot min. All the other validations you can put on top of that min. That means okay, email is required, dot email. If there is an error, email is invalid, and then next argument is password. For password also we can have validation. So it is jet.string, and inside string you can just set the validations, required error, password is required. Okay, and this is what is the validations and all. We can add on top of that min, password is required, and you can also specify the validations like okay, what is the total criteria. Okay, password must be at least 8 character. Simple job validations we are doing. Okay, this is missing here, password is required, this is required error. Okay, so this is like a simple schema, and we have created a type. Now how to import these types in this login? I can try to import it here. Okay, this is like alias import we are able to do, login user input, and then here I can also use a login user schema dot parse. So what we are doing is we are doing the parse, and I don't need, okay, we don't need to put await here. We can just do a simple parse body. So if the validation passed, that means our data is correct. If there is an error, if there is a validation error, then obviously we need to just throw error. So if error is instance of job error, we can just throw this. Otherwise, return get error response. Okay, we need to build this method. But these are like some custom methods we need to define inside helpers. Otherwise, we can just throw a simple messages, get error response. So inside our lib, we have validations and Prisma. I can create a helpers.ts. So we can have a error messages sending properly. Okay, I can define one generic function, export function, get error message, get error response should be proper. And what we need to do here, it will just accept a couple of arguments like status, message, or errors, and based on that we will define, okay, what is the error we need to return. It can be job error also, so I will just import it from the job. And then, but because what actually we will be returning next response. So I already have a snippet available for this. Next response will be coming from next server, and then this method we can call from our login. So get error response, job error. If error, this is instance of job error, then do this. Otherwise, get error response, and we will just send 500 internal server error occurred, right? Something is wrong, which we don't know. Internal server error. Okay, what is wrong with this? Error object is not assignable. So here there are two type of errors can be thrown. I mean, this is optional. Next error, get error response. So these are the validations. So now what we have, now we got the payload, and now we can start doing the Prisma stuff here. Const user equal to await. So I am going to access Prisma. I'm going to get from the lib Prisma. Okay, dot user. Why this is not showing me? So I got the Prisma from the lib Prisma, and then it should show me all the models which I have created. If it is not showing, then we need to just execute this generate command, npx Prisma generate, because we need to have this model available on the Prisma object. So this is strange. Ideally it should have this user object on that. Let me just see what is the error here. So if I look into this Prisma client, right, because this is the node modules, when you do npx Prisma generate, it should be generating this Prisma client with the user model. So this is my index.d.ts. I can see the user type, and this user type should be available everywhere. You can see this is the model name, user, and okay, let's see this Prisma.user. Prisma I'm getting from this login. So let's see, we need to just try again. Prisma.user. So what all operations we need to perform here? First we will check, okay, dot find unique. It's better if we can get the types, okay, that actually solves our lots of problem. So I will try to get the types first. Await Prisma dot. So if you want to know what is the problem here, if you see this Prisma is coming of type any. Ideally it should be coming of type Prisma client, and here also it is any. That is the problem for us, right? Here is Prisma of type any. Why that is, if my node env is not production and Prisma is of type any is being assigned with any. Okay, this new Prisma client is also of type any. That's strange. Okay, this is Prisma client. I can just say this as Prisma client. Will it change anything? No. It's all TypeScript stuff. Sometimes it happens is if I reload this whole app, then it should work. Okay. And here you can see I literally did nothing. I just closed the VS Code and I opened it. Now it is showing the correct type. Even if I go to prisma.ts, this Prisma is showing correct type of Prisma client, right? This is what I want. And now because I need typings, I cannot run things without typing. Prisma.use user dot, here I will do find unique, right? Prisma.user.find unique based on what? Based on email. So inside a where, because without these typings we can't take the help of TypeScript to do our stuff. So here data.email. Okay, what is there? A string is not assignable to type, a user unique input. Email does not exist in type. Okay, so this is the where clause, find unique. Prisma.user.find unique where email equal to data.email. Now we need to check what is there inside a user object. It's all TypeScript stuff which we are facing. I mean, email is not assignable, that is strange. To type where user input. So if we try to decode this problem, then this email, if you see, this email is we are trying to do the unique, but there is no unique constraint added on this email. So we need to add this, otherwise how it will work. And now I will just do npx prisma generate. It will update my client with this updated model. Okay, I'm not inside a correct directory. So these errors and these things may happen. It's all about how you can troubleshoot while doing it on the live. Okay, it has generated a client. Now I will go to the routes and I will try to do this thing again. Email equal to data.email, and obviously the types won't be reflecting as soon as I have done it. But if you see this user model, now if I try to just check this user entity here inside this node modules, you can see the path Prisma client index.d.ts, Prisma client, and if I try to see my user model, this is the email. I mean, you will find it somewhere how this user model is defined, and then find unique options. Okay, let's not struggle with this. I will just restart my VS Code. That should fix this TypeScript error. And as you can see, this TypeScript error is gone. I mean, it's really strange, and obviously because where these types are defined. These types are defined inside a Prisma client. And when you update them using Prisma generate command, new types gets added. And sometimes this TypeScript, because TypeScript loaded on the runtime when you open the VS Code, that should be a really bug that VS Code needs to solve on the fly. They needs to refresh the types defined in the node modules. Okay, let's make progress. We are already delaying this. So here we got the user object. If we got the user object, then what we need to do is we should start comparing the, if let's say we don't get the user object, right? If user object is null, so here we are checking if user object is not null, then we can just do await compare. So this method we are going to import from bcrypt.js, compare data.password with user.password. Okay, and if this is true, then what we can do is return get error response, and error response is 401. That means credentials are invalid data. If this is not like this, then we can just create a JWT token expire in that we are going to get from environment variables. So inside helpers, we are going to create this environment variable helper method. So get environment variable, it should be there. So how we get the environment variables in Next.js, right? So inside the lib helpers, we can create this method get environment variable. So go to helpers, export const get env. I'm trying to create it as a production ready because we don't want just a half cooked production application. Okay, this is of type string, let's say, and then what it is going to do, it is going to return a string get environment variable. What happened with this? Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to get the value for this process.env.key, whatever the key you are passing. If value which we have received and value dot length equal to 0, that means we don't have it, right? So in that case, we can just throw the error because we cannot start the application where environment variable is missing environment variable key not set, something like that. And if all these things are not there, then return value. So what is the error with this thing? Get environment variable comma expected export function get environment variable. Okay, we can use this method everywhere in the application. So here get environment variable, what I want to get is the expiry token expiry. So I will just pass the key which is JWT expire in, that is my string, and this I can import from the helper. So don't create a mess by writing lots of code here. Here we can just keep the minimal implementation, and here I'm going to create a token. So all those I'm going to use this helper only to create this token for me, sign JWT, because we are going to create the token for what information here. This is the payload. I'm going to pass the payload is user.id, and the expiry I can pass. This is another option which is inside number of minutes. Let's say it can be number of seconds also. So I will just add minutes, and this is JWT expire in. That's it. This method I'm going to define, and then let's define this method JWT sign JWT. So what sign JWT do is this is going to return as the token inside helpers. Inside lib we can create a token.ts that will do all these token related stuff. Okay, token.ts, here export const sign JWT, and I'm just going to play around with this library to create a token. There are many different ways in which you can create a token. So here it is expecting two different options, two different argument. Payload which contains subscriber as a string, this is the first argument, and options which contains the expiry, that is also of type string, right? These two arguments we are passing. So we are just passing all the TypeScript typings, and then here I will get the secret first. JWT expiry and JWT secret key, these two things we are going to use, and here we are going to use get environment variable. I defined this method in the helper get environment variable inside the token, and here I'm just going to get the secret key JWT secret key. So we need expiry and the secret key. I will import this thing, and once I get the secret, I can just use the either I can just use zwt.sign. There are many different ways of doing it. Or there are other methods also. JAWS is another library which is used to create a secure these tokens. JAWS is JavaScript. Okay, this is not maybe. If I remember this correctly, JAWS sign JWT. Okay, this may be that. Okay, so we can just stick to JSON Web Token. I will try to add that module or a dependency. We don't need to make it complex by just introducing a separate library. pnpm. Okay, we need to go to that folder. pnpm app, pnpm add JSON Web Token. Okay. And now I will just import it and I will just do a return gwt.sign import. How to do this? So we can just take the help of this library, npm module JSON Web Token, and how you can create a sign tokens gwt.sign. This is your payload, then this is your secret, right? You will just import the JSON Web Token. So here I will try to add a JWT, and I think I need to add the types also for this. So how to do this with the pnpm add -d type JSON Web Token, and then I can just do jwt dot sign. And what is the payload? I already have a payload and the secret key which I'm going to use to sign it. I think this is a sync method, or it is returning a promise. Sign. Okay, so this is simple. And then there is a verify method we can write. Verify means this is creating a signed JWT token. Then there is another method is to verify JWT. That also we can define. I'm going here a little slow because all the code I have to write. Verify, this would take a token as a string. This is taking token as a string, and then it is going to return the promise. Let's say promise of any for now. And here what we need to do is we can just put this inside a try catch. So here const secret is fine, const verify equal to jwt dot verify, and here I need to pass the token and the secret. So if verification is successful, then otherwise it will just throw okay, your token is invalid. Same we can see in the documentation also, how we are doing a sign and the verify method. This is like jwt.verify token and the same secret, right? Like the wrong secret, this is also callback based, so it will return a promise. Okay, jwt.verify, it should return. Okay, yeah, so we can use this verify jwt. Now what we need to do, we just need to do the login, get the token, and then just do the simple access, create a protected APIs and checking the session through the Next.js middleware. So still a long way to go. Okay, so now we can call sign jwt method. This we will import. So here we will get the token. And now what we need to do, we need to send this token inside a cookies. So we will get the expiry. So token max age. Here we are not setting the token, the age of the token, but the age of the cookies, which is, we can just do a %. and here we got GWT expire in, this is in the minutes, so we'll just multiply it with the 60, so that is seconds, and const cookies options. So here we can just set the cookies. Okay, what will be the cookie name, what will be the value? So the value is this token which we have received, HTTP only true, HTTP only. There should be a type for it also for these cookies options. So HTTP option true, path is / and domain is whatever the domain you have. So if you want to secure it, secure the cookies, like okay, if your environment is process.env not env, if that is not equal to development, then secure it. And the last option is max age, that is token max age. Okay, and now we have the cookies object, so we can just send the response back. Const response equal to new next response, next request next response, and inside this what I can do is I can just specify the data. So the data, how can I specify? I can just do a json.stringify, and this is an object, status okay, message, I mean, it's like I just want to send a stringified response back. So this is your response you have created, and then you need to send the response with the cookies. Okay, so you got the response object. So either you do this, or we can just do all these things together. Await promise dot all. I mean, I also got this syntax for, I'm writing this syntax for the first time, doing all these things together. Here you can set the response dot cookies dot set, or set all the cookies options, and then once you do it, response dot, when you wanted to set multiple cookies, response dot cookies dot set that you logged in and all, name logged in is my cookies, value is true. I mean, this is just for the local session to know that you are logged in. Max age is token max age, and return the response. Once it is done, return response object. So this response object we are sending with the cookies set. Okay, this is our end-to-end simple login, right? If all these things that didn't work out, then it's a JOD error or some error, internal server error, which we can throw. So it's a end-to-end the login flow for the Next.js Auth API. Okay, so what we can do is we can test this end-to-end. This is our login route, and when I do npm run dev, right, I can just do npm run dev, and I can start my application. The only thing I changed here is you cannot have a middleware.ts file empty, so I removed it for now, and my server started on 3001. Okay, and I can just try to test this the login API, and I just did a console.log data. Okay, so what I can do is here I can try simple login. Currently this data is not in the database. I can just check some validation error is coming, that is expected, right? So my login API is working, and here you can see this Prisma is also triggering queries to the database. That is good news. So at least our login is working. Now we will just create a sign up where we can send create a real user, and then we can just do the login with that. The only error which I got is here, it's a bcrypt.js. In my node modules it was bcrypt library, so you need to change it to the bcrypt.js, and it will work without any issue. Now we will just do the sign up. So what is the another API we need to build is inside a login we have a register. right? So this is all login. Now login is done. We go to the register route.ts. I will try to copy things from this and I will change this in the register handler. So in the register, the things are going to be pretty much similar. Here, this is post handler. And here I'm going to get, instead of login user input, we are going to create a register schema and register input. So here I will just do is register user schema. Right, inside register user schema, and I will just get the register user input from that. So now it would be a little bit faster than what we have done for the login, because we know what needs to be done. Here we have a name, email, couple of attributes we need to pass. Okay, so I will just specify the whole payload. What we need is, let's say, the name, which is required. Jet.string name is required. Name is required, and then there is an email. So here I will just put the email. For the email should be required, and it should be using email. Jet.string email required, and then minimum email required, and then email validations here, and then there is a password. For password, we need to have a couple of validations. Jet.string password is required. Minimum, I think we can just have the same validations whatever we have for the login. So I'm just taking name, email, and the password as an input. Okay, that should be enough for me. Name, email, and the password. Okay, and I can export the schema, register user input. I will go to the register API routes. So it's a register user input. I will import these things, and this is register user schema. I can import this also, and we will just remove the unused imports. So here what we are doing is, first we got the data. Now once we got the data, what is the next thing we are going to do? We are going to hash the password. Const hash password, and we are going to use the bcrypt library for it. Await hash, that is coming from bcrypt.js. We can use that, and that is going to deal with the data.password and the salt value ab12. So this is the hash password, and here we are not going to do all these things because it's very simple, right? We are just creating a user. So we just need to do const user, create a user for me, and I'm going to use await Prisma. So await Prisma dot, what is the method name? Await Prisma dot create. Prisma dot user dot create, and inside this you specify the whole data, whatever you are going to insert. So that the data is, we have the name, data.name, email, data.email, and the password, which is hash password. I think this information is more than enough. And then what we are doing is, once the user is created, we are going to return the data. So here I can do is, I can just send the user object. Okay, what happened here? This is already object. Here I can just specify the data. So I'm going to send the whole user object, and I will just set the password and define for this. That's it, right? So this is the response we are sending back. Next response, which will be of type 200, and here you can specify this is the payload, and then another argument you can specify is Wait, let me just see, because it accepts 2 argument. New next response. This is the whole payload we are specifying inside this here. Okay, I should be able to specify status. Status is 201, resource created. And then what is the problem here? I need to see the whole thing. Is it proper or not? So new next response. Okay, there is a, this is the bracket, and then there is another bracket. Okay, so before closing this, okay, this is the second argument. So here I can specify status, which is 201. That's it. And then return response. So it's like a simple register API. And if there is a JOD error, if the error is instance of JOD error, then we will just do the failed validations. And there are other error codes you can get, which is all about, okay, if this email already exists, then you will get a specific error codes. Error is of type any for now. If there is error code like this, email already exists, because that is unique, get error response. And here we can get error.message. Okay, a simple registry API. So we can try this, name, email, and the password. And we got it. So what I'm doing is just a name, email, password. This is auth register. And if I do this, I will get an error. So this is hello@gmail.com. Let's say hello. Name is say hello. Password is say hello. One thing which we are missing. So if I'm able to create a multiple user with the same email, because we only did Prisma generate, but we didn't do the Prisma migrate, because we updated a model. If you remember, we made this unique, but to apply this in the database level, what we need to do, we need to do a migrate also. So cd apps, and here I need to do npx Prisma migrate dev. So it's like it should be a new migration will be created that will add a unique constraint to this file. So this is again a user. So it may delete some data, because we already have multiplied before the error is recovered, because what is happening is P3018, because there is already data exist in the database that contains the duplicate record. So if you apply the unique constraint, that means it's going to fail the migration. So in that cases, what we can do is either you can go to the SQLite and dump the data, I mean just delete the data. And how we can do that, I will try to use this my client. So here you can see that some of the emails are already duplicated. So what I will do, I will just dump all these records which are not being used, and I will do this migration again. All the data will be lost and the migration is applied. Now if you try to see the structure of this email, is there is a unique key constraint added here, right? Now if you try to just do this, there should be error. Okay, this is expected, right? Now I can just use this email password for the login. And I can be okay, there is some internal error. Let's see what is that this error is about. Where is it running? Okay, let's see what is this error about. Email password compiled successfully. Okay, so we need to debug this, why this is failing, internal server error, and how we can debug this. So it's all about troubleshooting. So this mistakes I have done myself, and let's try to debug this. So how would you debug? So we are able to create user successfully, and it is passing this validation. We need to check if this expiry is coming, and it is doing the sign JWT. First of all, if we check this Postgres data, is the data saved correctly? Okay, we have the password, that is correct. User role, verified, name, email, password. Okay, now here we will start you can just do the log instructions. So this is the name, email and the password being passed. Okay, so here we able to pass this particular line. We got the JWT expiry, sign JWT. Did we get the token? Here we can just try to do if we are getting the token or not. And then it's all about sending the response back after getting the token. So that means this method is not giving us the token back. User.id, here JWT. Okay, this is the problem. We got it right. This should be JWT secret key. Same thing is here, JWT secret key, and we will check if JWT expire in, and JWT secret key. Okay, for this we can restart the application and check again. Okay, this is our login. Obviously we created a, I will try to create a user again. Simply hello. We'll try to debug this thing and see where it is breaking. So it is created. Now we will try to simply do the login, and it will break, and then we will see internal server error. So it's a Prisma query. Okay, here it is successfully. So it is not giving us the token back, right? So what can be the possible error? Here we'll go to the login, get environment variable. So we'll go to the sign JWT. We got the secret and JWT.sign. This is the method which should return us the signed token. Okay, and we can also use this expiry. We can pass the expiry in JWT.sign and create a signed token. Okay, just to check what is the error coming, what I did is I just tried to put the console.log error. It was not reporting this correctly. I can just do error dot message. Error is type any, and then if I try this thing, I think I should get nobody returned for the response. So here you can see what is the error. The error exactly is JWT expire in. So it was always, most of the time with me, is the typo. If I just go to the .env, it expires in. Now I will just try to double check it. Expire in secret key. So it's expired. So I will just change it to expire in, and then I will just start this application again. Okay, and let's see this. And here I can see the response back. So I can just do the login, token success, and here you can see the cookies also. So there are two cookies I'm setting. This is a simple cookies. One is a token and one is a logged in, right? Token contains the token which we generated, and this is HTTP only, secure false, and logged in true. This is what we are getting. So this is our simple login, and the registry flow is complete. This is end to end is happening, right? Simply we created these Auth APIs in the Next.js, and now we have tested both the APIs using simple Postman also. Both are working. That means now our client only components can access these APIs and can send a Next.js API endpoint request. So now that we can write, we can just remove these console log errors. So this is how I just did a simple debugging. This error in the secret key in the .env is like a typo, so you need to be aware. And how we are doing a debugging, just throwing a, just checking what is the error in the try catch. That error will probably tell you what is the error which you have done, like either some variable is missing, or some error is being thrown by doing a sign and verify. So this is all we can have in the part 1. What I will do is I will create the part 2 of this video. In the part 2 we will create all these client components. Let's say the login, inside this we have a piece.tsx, and then we have a login form, register form, and in the profile, if the session exists, we should be able to fetch the user profile, which contains, okay, the email, and this is the username, all this information. So client only integrations we are going to do in the next video. Thanks everyone. Thanks for watching. And if you like the content, you can subscribe.